We're here with Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, a Democrat from Michigan. And Congresswoman, congratulations are in order. You are now a newly elected co-chair of the messaging arm of the House Democratic Committee. What do you plan to do in your post?
Well, I think it's very important that first and foremost we listen to what the working men and women of this country are concerned about, which is something that we did not do 2 years ago, and that we need to do. We did do this year, and we need to make sure we're doing going into a presidential election year. But I think people are really worried. They're worried about their health care costs. They're worried about, are they going to be able to go to a doctor if they have a pre-existing condition? They're worried about, a lot of people have worked a lifetime, put money into pension, retirement funds, and suddenly it's time to retire, and they're threatened. And they thought they'd have a safe and secure retirement. They're not going to have it. Basic programs like Social Security, Medicare, we have to talk about the issues that matter to working men and women.
A lot of people are worried about jobs, especially with the recent announcement that GM is going to be closing 5 plants in the U.S. You, of course, in your previous career, were a lobbyist for GM.
I wasn't a lobbyist, but I did work for. I was president of the GM Foundation and was head of public affairs.
Head of public affairs. So you've worked extensively with GM. What do you make of this?
I'm deeply concerned, and I'm deeply concerned about the way that they did it. Earlier this year, they announced that they were moving production of the Blazer to Mexico. It's not clear what they're planning on doing with future production, but I am committed to making sure that we keep these jobs. We pass policies here in Washington that keep those jobs here in America.
What's a policy that can be passed that can
let's start with trade policy, which one of the reasons that President Trump won, because he came into Michigan 2 years ago, and he actually showed that he cared about those jobs that have been shipped overseas. Now, my problem with the president's trade policy right now is it's all over the place and it's not consistent. We need a consistent trade policy that levels the playing field.
Does that include USMCA and NAFTA 2.0?
I have said we're waiting to. I don't think he has signed it. Well, Ben brought it forward, but right now, what's in there isn't going to protect the workers. I just spoke with someone that was in Mexico this week, where one of the supplier companies is paying $1.50 an hour. I am not going to fight for a trade bill that still keeps shifting jobs to another country.
You know, people are concerned, Congresswoman. They're also angry. I mean, this is
very angry.
This is a company that was bailed out by taxpayers. And then just closes down plants. I mean, what would your message be to Mary Barra?
And I worked with Mary Barra. My message to Mary is very loud and clear. You need to show you care about the workers. You know, at the same time yesterday, and I'm worried about this, the Flat Rock Mustang plant is in my district. Ford announced that they were moving a shift, eliminating a shift at both Flat Rock and one in Kentucky. But they also made very clear when they made the announcement that the workers were going to go to another plant, they cared about what the workers' reaction was going to be. The way that this announcement came down, just suddenly closing these 5 plants, no discussion about what they were doing for the workers, this isn't about just, what's happened is we got a tax bill that's rewarding these companies for moving jobs overseas.
Right, but what about auto tariffs? The president says he's considering them. Is that good or bad?
My problem with the way the president is doing all of this is that it's all over the board. It's not consistent, and he hasn't even actually. He knows where some of his, as he puts forth, it's not clear. It's the art of the deal. Businesses need certainty, and there's zero certainty out there.
So another argument of this is when you talk to folks in the GM world, they say, well, they're just shifting to what Ford has been doing, which is, trying to double down on things like autonomous vehicles and whatnot. I mean, does this have anything to do with just how the market's moving? Okay,
let me be really clear about several of these things. First of all, the fact of the matter is that this is a cyclical industry. I know it. I worked in it for 30 years. But right now, it used to be when that 14 or 15 million units was considered good. It's at 17 million now, but it's had the longest run this industry has ever seen of no downturn. So we need to expect it. But at the same time, what I want is this industry, the domestic industry, to be the leaders in transforming mobility worldwide. Autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles are the vehicle of the future, and so is ride-sharing. Both of those companies, all the companies are looking at that. But I want to keep that here. I don't want it to happen in China or India. I want that to happen in the United States, in my home state.
Should those subsidies from the Obama administration that were offered to companies like GM, should they be pulled back?
I am looking very strongly. I want to understand what the impact is, but I'm not giving tax subsidies to a company that's shipping jobs.
I got to ask you this. This directly impacts what's happening in the auto industry in your district. You're someone who has worked with Mary Barra. now you're in charge of the Democratic messaging and the leadership. Should these CEOs have to testify? Should Mary Barra, should GM, should they have to testify with what happened?
I think that they need to come to Washington and they need to be taught. We have yet to hear from them. The Michigan delegation is asked to go out there and fight for them all of the time. They need to be talking. Now, all of us are doing an analysis of, okay, what's in place, what benefits are they getting? I understand that we have to do some things so that if we're going to transform the mobility and start to go to electric vehicles, how do we support the sales of that? How do we build the infrastructure?
But bringing in Mary Barra from GM to talk to
she should be prepared to talk about it and defend what they're going to ask us for.